Welcome to the Radically Genuine Podcast. I am Dr. Roger McFillin. Imagine for a moment telling someone in the 1980s or prior that within a few decades, millions of Americans would believe emotions were caused by a chemical imbalance in their brains. One that could be corrected with a daily pill. They might have dismissed this. Well, they definitely would have dismissed it as science fiction or quackery. Yet here we are, living in the aftermath of one of the most successful mass delusions in modern history. I'm here to tell you today about the great American mind hijacking, a cultural coup d'etat executed by the big pharma and which radically rewired our understanding of the human psyche. In the snap of a single generation, we went from seeing sadness and anxiety as natural, albeit challenging responses to life's ups and downs, to viewing them as symptoms of a serious medical condition that only a doctor could diagnose, only a pill could fix. This isn't just a story about antidepressants. It's a cautionary tale about the power of propaganda, the malleability of public belief, and the dangers of reducing the complexities of the human mind to a simple chemical equation. Today, we're going to dissect how this happened, exploring the insidious techniques used to brainwash a nation and, in effect, Western societies, and the profound consequences of this shift in our collective consciousness, from the ubiquitous sad blob Zoloft commercials to the mantra that only your doctor can diagnose depression. We'll uncover the linguistic traps and psychological manipulation that turned millions of Americans into unwitting participants in a grand pharmaceutical experiment. In the United States, we're only one of two countries that allow pharmaceutical companies to directly advertise to consumers. And the industry allocates over $1 billion a month across the globe to get us to take their products. How do they do this? It's obviously highly effective, or they wouldn't be spending that money. It's an investment. I know it's highly uncomfortable to know our thoughts are this malleable and we are vulnerable to this degree of mass conditioning. But let's choose to be uncomfortable today. Is the word brainwashing too hyperbolic? I don't think so. I mean, brainwashing refers to a forcible indoctrination process aimed at drastically altering a person's beliefs, attitudes, behavior. Generally includes repetitive exposure to new ideas or doctrines and the use of psychological manipulation techniques. Make no mistake about it. I mean, we're in the midst of a psychological war, and our minds are the battleground. This billion-dollar brainwashing campaign waged by Big Pharma, it's not just about selling pills. It's about reshaping our very understanding of what it means to be human. And don't believe for a second that these same techniques aren't used on us by other industries and by our own government. Their weapons are words. Their ammunition is images in every ad. It's a precision strike on our psyche. But here's the truth they don't want us to realize. Awareness is our armor. Every time that you recognize these tactics, maybe it's the cute cartoon characters minimizing real pain, the taglines pathologizing normal emotions, the before and after scenes selling a fantasy of instant transformation, recognizing what they do in spots that are put in American movies, television. You strengthen your mental defenses. Now, for all mental health professionals out there who are listening, it is really important that you stop repeating the messages. These aren't your thoughts. Now, that's uncomfortable. They've been planted. And by continuing to recommend these drugs, you are keeping the system working as designed. Especially therapists. Therapists, you are not in a position to be recommending the range of psychiatric drugs that you're recommending. You're pushing people into the system. And let's face it, you don't know much about these drugs outside of what has been marketed to you. The United States, along with New Zealand, stands virtually alone on the global stage in permitting direct-to-consumer advertising of prescription drugs. This policy has profoundly shaped the American healthcare landscape. Since the FDA relaxed regulations on direct-to-consumer advertising in 1997, pharmaceutical marketing has become ubiquitous in the US media, fundamentally altering how Americans perceive health, illness, and what is treatment. This constant exposure has led many patients to self-diagnose and request specific medications from their doctor. I mean, it sounds insane right now, just saying it out loud. I mean, this undermines the traditional doctor-patient relationship. It's contributed to the mass medicalization of ordinary life and the perception that there is a pill for every ill. This drives up healthcare costs and pharmaceutical consumption in ways unseen in other developed nations. I mean, this is not just advertising. It is social engineering. So today's an interesting podcast. I'm by myself today, and I want to be able to dissect one of the most insidious mind control operations to invade American living rooms. It's the notorious Zoloft sad blob commercial of the early 2000s. For those of you who have listened to the first ever Radically Genuine podcast episode, we played this commercial. Today I'm going to play it again, but this time we're going to break down with some sophistication the brainwashing messages and then how they impact us today. So without any delay, here is that infamous Zoloft commercial.
You know when you feel the weight of sadness. You may feel exhausted, hopeless, and anxious. Whatever you do, you feel lonely and don't enjoy the things you once loved. Things just don't feel like they used to. These are some symptoms of depression, a serious medical condition affecting over 20 million Americans. While the cause is unknown, depression may be related to an imbalance of natural chemicals between nerve cells in the brain. Prescription Zoloft works to correct this imbalance. You just shouldn't have to feel this way anymore. Only your doctor can diagnose depression. Zoloft is not for everyone. People taking MAOIs or Pimozide shouldn't take Zoloft. Side effects may include dry mouth, insomnia, sexual side effects, diarrhea, nausea, and sleepiness. Zoloft is not habit-forming. Talk to your doctor about Zoloft, the #1 prescribed brand of its kind. Zoloft. When you know more about what's wrong, you can help make it right.
Okay, very interesting here. The rebranding of depression as a serious medical condition was perhaps the most insidious and effective strategy in the pharmaceutical industry's marketing playbook. I know for many people out there, this seems relatively benign, but it really did alter our relationship with our own emotions and experiences. Like I'm in a unique position being where I am in age. I remember very clearly the time before this messaging. Remember the time before social media and cell phones. I mean, I was a kid and a teenager growing up in the 1990s before this occurred. So it is new for a lot of us who are Generation X. It's pathologizing the human condition in ways that are both subtle and profound. So by elevating depression to the status of a serious medical condition, marketers, they tapped into this potent cocktail of fear and self-doubt. Suddenly feeling down wasn't just a natural response to life's challenges. It's a potential medical emergency. Like this framing achieves several key objectives. Okay. So as I mentioned before, it medicalized normal human emotions, sadness, grief, disappointment, loneliness, boredom. I mean, once seen as inevitable parts of life, they become symptoms, something that we have to pay attention to and even report it to a medical expert. I mean, this drives an attention on our internal experience in ways that previously was not part of our cultural consciousness. And this instills a sense of urgency and fear. When you hear the message that this is serious, it implies danger. And it suggests that without prompt medical treatment, our mental state could spiral into a life-threatening situation. So this undermines, I think, what we can call as self-reliance and traditional support systems. If depression was a serious medical condition, then friends, family talking about it, clergy, they're no longer qualified to help. Only a medical professional would do this. And this legitimizes pharmaceutical intervention. You frame depression as a medical condition, and it naturally leads us to the conclusion that it requires pharmaceutical solutions. It shifts the locus of control from the individual to the external experts. And people are encouraged to doubt their own judgment about their mental state and defer to medical authorities. Now, my goodness, why on earth would you require a medical professional to have to diagnose what you're feeling? It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? But now here we are, we're in this mental space. This is wrong. I shouldn't feel this way. Now think about it logically, folks. Do you think that's going to improve outcomes or decrease outcomes? Is this going to help somebody just cope with what they're dealing with and face problems? Or is it going to worsen the condition? Let's go on to the second piece. It was very clear that it was promoted as you shouldn't have to feel this way anymore, right? It says that in the commercial. You shouldn't have to feel this way anymore. So on the surface, it appears to offer hope and relief. But beneath this veneer of empathy, it lies a dangerous implication that certain feelings are inherently wrong or even unnecessary. And that we should be able to simply switch them off like a light. You don't have to feel this way anymore. This is ridiculous. It's not realistic. And when you say you shouldn't feel this anymore, what is this? What do you mean by this way? Listen, the average person is not very skilled at knowing what they feel, what is normal, and why. I mean, we can only use ourselves as a reference point. We can't actually see emotions. We can only see behavior. So when we drive our attention inward with a degree of judgment to try to make sense of what we're feeling, you can see how that judgment, we shouldn't feel this way anymore, can lead to us viewing that as wrong. Obviously, kids and teens, they're much less capable of understanding their emotions. So promoting this idea that we shouldn't have to feel this way, pharmaceutical marketing has effectively pathologized the normal. And so it suggests that any prolonged period of emotional difficulty is abnormal, and then it requires treatment. So this perspective strips away the context and meaning from our emotional responses. The sadness of losing a loved one or ending a relationship, the anxiety of facing a major life challenge, the frustration of navigating a difficult relationship. All these rich, complex emotional landscapes, they're flattened into a simple, quote unquote, symptoms that need to be eliminated. The medicalization of this emotion, it really does have profound downstream consequences. We've lost our collective language of suffering. The cultural narratives and social supports that once helped us make sense of and move through difficult feelings are kind of gone. I wrote an article not too long ago about, are you seeing a therapist? Our society's now response to somebody struggling. You see this in schools, you see this within friend groups, you see this on social media. If somebody is upset, they're experiencing natural human reactions. The request is to see a professional. And instead of like viewing emotional pain as a catalyst for growth, a signal that something in our lives needs attention, or simply just part of the normal ebb and flow of the human experience, we're encouraged to see it as a malfunction to be corrected, or at least that there's something wrong with us.